The leftist media, well, they've been working hard to degrade Oklahoma State education chief and his efforts to bring substantial and necessary reform to the education system there in the Sooner State, including his effort to put Bibles back in the classrooms. But the attacks have not deterred him. They might even have propelled him in his fight against indoctrination in education. So joining me now to discuss the work he's been doing to get his state and our nation back to educating kids is Ryan Walters, Oklahoma's State Superintendent of Public Instruction. Superintendent Walters, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thank you for having me on, Tony. Really appreciate it.
Well, there is a lot you've been working on, a lot for us to talk about. Let's start with your efforts to put the Bible back in classrooms. Where's that stand?
Well, right now we are seeking purchasing the Bible. So look, every Bible in the state of Oklahoma is going to have, every classroom in the state of Oklahoma is going to have a Bible. Look, it is instrumental throughout our history. It has played a tremendous role in shaping America, society, government, really all aspects of our history. You can go back all the way to the Pilgrims, to our presidents, all the way up to Martin Luther King Jr. in present day. Tremendous influence. The left has run the Bible out of school with their attacks on Christianity and our faith, and we're bringing it back. So right now we're in the process of purchasing a Bible for every classroom so that every kid can understand the influence of the Bible as one of our founding documents.
So how will that be utilized in the classroom?
Yes, sir. So we've already laid out some guidelines, and we'll be giving further guidance as well. But here's what we'll be making sure of, that kids understand the role the Bible played, for example, with the Pilgrims. We're going to explicitly have them talk about, why did the Pilgrims come to America? What kind of religious persecution were they under? Why did Thomas Jefferson use the phrase under God in the 1800s? Well, what are we talking about here as we get out of the Declaration of Independence and the First Great Awakening? Where is that concept coming from? How would most Americans have viewed that? We go all the way through our history, giving those historical and literary guidelines, all the way up to Martin Luther King Jr. and from his letter from a Birmingham jail, references Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He points to these as examples that he followed when he broke the law, but not God's law. And again, those are Martin Luther King Jr.'s words, not mine. So we have guidance there that around the historical and literary value of the Bible. Every kid should know that. How do you understand American history without understanding the Bible? We're going to make sure that our kids understand American exceptionalism and the Judeo-Christian values that this country played such a major role in this country's history.
I would venture to say, Superintendent Walters, that it would be impossible to be culturally literate and not have some understanding of the Bible.
Look, I completely agree. I mean, you think about it, and again, I've challenged people. Okay, explain to me what Thomas Jefferson meant in Declaration of Independence, that our rights come from our Creator. If you can't mention God or the Christian faith of most Americans, how would that have been read? How would that have been understood? Think about all aspects of society throughout our history. It is academically dishonest to not talk about the role the Bible played, and frankly, it's left-wing censorship. When individuals throughout history said, listen, I'm a Christian, I'm following these Bible verses, I'm following God's will here, and you say, hold on, we can't talk about it because we don't like God, we don't like Christianity, that you hear from the left and the teachers' unions all the time. They hate it, so they want it out. Well, now history doesn't even make sense. So how can our kids understand it? But then even to me, more important, how do we continue to be that exceptional country that protects individual liberty, that has a society the way that we do? If we don't teach our kids where we came from, how we became that exceptional country, we can never move forward as that exceptional country.
So what's the fear on the side of the left for allowing students to have access to this information? I mean, we're teaching them, indoctrinating them in many places that they can choose their own sex. We're teaching them evolution, a proven flawed theory that has so many gaps. You could drive a Neanderthal semi-truck through it. So what are they afraid of?
By the way, I think your viewers will find this interesting. The same groups that are suing me to block the Bible from being back in the classroom were the same groups that sued me to bring back gender, queer, and flamer. I mean, literally, it's the same people. They want graphic transgender pornography in the classroom under the name of inclusion, but they don't want the Bible, the most read, the most cited book, in most purchased book in American history. And I think what they're afraid of is they don't want kids to love this country. They don't want kids to understand that faith has played a role in so many Americans' lives. They don't want kids to know the truth. What they want to do is lie to kids and make them hate this country, hate their faith, hate their families, so they can recreate America into some Marxist dumpster fire. And that's their vision, is erase history, lie to young people, indoctrinate them, and then you get this this Marxist vision for the country that can come to fruition.
The Christian faith, if you are honest and you look at history, it's been there. It has been, and that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be as a follower of Christ, a saving faith, but it is a recognition of an anchor point for this nation that has erected guideposts that this nation has been directed by. I mean, the historical record is replete with that. It's very clear, very evident. And I think to your point, the reason of removing that is so you can recreate an America in in a different image that can be molded and shaped into something that it was never intended to be.
And by the way, we just saw last Tuesday how Americans feel about that. Kamala Harris and Tim Waltz ran on the most anti-American, anti-Christian. What would Kamala Harris tell those Christians? Hey, you're at the wrong rally. Right? We saw them attack, colleges like Grand Canyon University because they're Christian universities. We saw these attacks against Christians, attacks against parents. And on the other hand, what do we have from President Trump? A vision for America, a vision that was unapologetic. He says, hey, I want the 10 Commandments back in the classroom. I want the Bible back in the classroom. Why not? He says, look, faith played an integral role in this country's history. Why wouldn't we want it there? The vision for America to make it great again is understanding our history and teaching it to our young people so they can continue this great country. President Trump laid out a clear vision. So did Kamala. And the American people voted overwhelmingly that they want those books back in our schools, the Bible, the 10 Commandments. They want the vision that President Trump has laid out for our schools and our education. They want his vision for the country. And they rejected wholly Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's vision.
Superintendent Walters, let's talk about that. Let's shift to the election. You mentioned the election. President Trump has said that he's going to dismantle the federal government's role in public education, the Department of Education. And you are excited about that. In fact, you've put together a team that will help lead Oklahoma forward in terms of public education when that authority is turned over to the state. Talk about that.
Look, I'm thrilled. I think President Trump laid out the greatest vision for education in our nation's history. It was bold. It was conservative. These were the reforms we needed. And when he eliminates the Federal Department of Education, it is going to be tremendous for our states. And just let me give you one example. Over the summer, if you remember, President Biden came out and said, hey, states, if you don't allow boys in the girls' bathroom, boys and girls' sports, I'm going to take your money from you and I'm going to sue you. We're going to litigate this issue against any state that doesn't allow our transgender ideology to happen in the classroom. Well, we fought it. We said, we're not doing that. We absolutely said not going to happen in Oklahoma. And we sued the Biden administration. We were the first state to do so in Oklahoma. But think about that. Think about the threats. These aren't just suggestions. These are threats from the Federal Department of Education. Remember, that's also the Federal Department of Education that brought you CRT, DEI, Common Core Math. They also brought in this anti-American hatred through the curriculum and through the grants that they pushed. They targeted states. So when President Trump does away with the Federal Department of Education, it will say, states, we never should have had this power in the first place. Literally, every educational statistic has gotten worse since Jimmy Carter created the Department of Education. If President Trump, when he gives that power back to the states should do what we do here in Oklahoma, give that power to the people. Make sure that families are directing their kids through educational school choice. Give them educational savings accounts so they can direct the way the resources are spent, not bureaucracies. And then you're really going to see the individual child really flourish and grow to their God-given abilities. And you're going to see families more involved in their kids' education, which again, President Trump's vision is families direct kids' education. And Kamala Harris's vision was bureaucrats and teachers unions. Boy, I'm telling you, I cannot be more excited to be involved in education in the state right now with that vision coming to fruition.
Let's unpack that just a little bit, Superintendent Walters, because many people think that because the federal government has such a heavy hand on shaping education that, this could be bad because we're going to see the money dry up. We're not going to have the kind of money that we need for public education. When I was in office working on education reform issues, when I first got involved, I was shocked at how little money actually came for the federal government in relatively speaking to the pressure that they applied to states. So block granting that money, number one, is going to keep the money flowing, but the influence of the federal government in education has way outsized its contribution monetarily.
Look, that's right. First of all, great point, Tony. Federal education spending only makes up to 8 to 10% of education spending in your state. So it's relatively small, number one. Number two, the Federal Department of Education receives over $230 billion now. So remember that the agency, that they don't educate a single child up there, right? They just dictate and push a left-wing agenda. So you got that bureaucracy that sucks up so much of the money in the first place. Number three, they dictate from that DC left-wing bureaucracy how to spend every dollar. President Trump's team could decide, there's several options they have here, but one of them is to block grant the money to the states, as you just laid out. They could say, look, special ed funding, it's block grant to the states. You guys do with it how you want to solve your local problems. And I'll tell you what we do here in Oklahoma. We'd give it to every family. We'd say, families, we want you directing these resources. We want you to choose the school of your choice. We want you to choose tutoring on the resources that your child needs, because every child is unique. God created us that way. And the people who are going to know best for what that individual child's needs are going to be the child's mom and dad. And so the closer we can get resources and decisions to the parents, the better. And again, that's what the elimination of the Federal Department of Education does. So don't believe the union lies and the left-wing lies that the sky is falling, Chicken Little, they're going crazy here at this prospect, because they know this takes the power out of DC and returns it to the kitchen table for mom and dad.
So let's talk about what you are doing now in anticipation of this as you make preparations.
We've done two things. We announced earlier in the week that we are creating President Trump's education advisory panel here for Oklahoma. So what that panel will do is they're going to help us put together recommendations for the state moving forward. Again, when the Federal Department of Education is gone, how can we direct those dollars? How can we make sure that families know about these options available? We're also rewriting our history standards. We want to make sure that we are pro-patriotism, pro-America, pro the role faith played in our country's history. So we're rewriting those history standards to make sure that takes place. We've also eliminated CRT, any kind of diversity, equity, and inclusion in our schools. And again, we've got merit pay for teachers. We want our high performers to be able to perform well. We've also created an ability for us to navigate how many illegal immigrants there are in our schools. We want the border shut down. President Trump is going to do that and allow states to solve that problem as well. And then lastly, we announced this today, we created the Office of Religious Liberty and Patriotism that will continue to navigate anytime a teacher is persecuted because of their Christian faith. We will investigate it and we will not stand for it. We want to protect the role of religious liberty in our schools, and we want to promote patriotism. We heard of a student earlier this year having an American flag taken from them. We will not tolerate that. We will not allow that into our schools. We want to promote patriotism and religious liberty in every school.
Wow, that is huge in restoring a sense of identity to the nation, into the classroom, which really shapes future leaders. Now, Oklahoma is a pretty conservative state. I mean, I grew up there, went to high school in Oklahoma, and if I'm not mistaken, every county in Oklahoma in this last election went red. I think it's the only state in the nation where that happened.
And this makes it 3 times in a row. I mean, again, the country loves President Trump, but we really love President Trump here in Oklahoma. It is a resounding victory for him nationwide. But again, we're going to be the tip of the spear for implementing his agenda. We love President Trump. His agenda is what our parents want. It's what taxpayers want. And so, listen, we're going to do all that we can to be the first state that, hey, when President Trump steps in office, we're going to be ready to go to put his vision into place here in Oklahoma.
Well, it sounds exciting, but I assume there's some pushback in some of the larger metropolitan areas of Oklahoma, maybe?
Oh, well, look, the teachers union, they always throw their fits. They love to throw lawsuits at me. It's similar to President Trump, right? It's, they can't beat you at the polls. Then they try to sue you. They try to stop you that way. But listen, look, we're not going to be scared of any legal battles. We're going to keep moving forward. We're not scared of the teachers union or a woke mob. We're going to continue advancing the ball here. And this is playing offense. This is President Trump's agenda, which is, hey, look, we are going to take back our schools. We will not allow a Marxist teachers union to control the future for our young people. We will take it back. We will give it to parents. We will promote patriotism. And look, we're unapologetic about this here in Oklahoma, Tony. We want President Trump's agenda enacted. We want patriotism. We will protect religious liberties. And we are very, very excited about what the next 4 years are going to look like.
All right, Ryan, final question for you, 30 seconds. How can people be praying for you and your role?
Yes, sir. Listen, I would ask them to continue to pray for the students of Oklahoma, for the families. We want families involved in their kids' education. We want families to play a major role in their kids' lives. So pray for our parents, pray for our teachers, pray for our kids. And we're going to continue to fight for those parents, teachers, and kids. That's what we've said from day one. We want to bring it back to those conservative values that our state has. We want to make sure that families are empowered in that way. And so please continue to pray for Oklahoma and continue to pray for the country because, listen, President Trump's bringing about this tremendous agenda. We are very excited, and we can't wait to implement it for the betterment of our state.
All right. We will be praying. Ryan Walters, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Tony.